Hi guys, welcome back to another video and happy new year to you. So guys, today we're going to show you, or I'm going to show you how to remove a radiator if you need to do some works behind the radiator, such as removing wallpaper. You might want to skim a wall that's got a radiator on it and you want to skim behind it. Also, you might just want to paint behind the radiator. So in some instances, I've done a video before and I was hoping this would be the case in this video, that I can tilt the radiator without actually disconnecting and draining it, and allow me to work behind it and I'll not have to disconnect any plumbing. So in this case, unfortunately, I can't do this. I'll show you why. So I'm going to have to remove the radiator altogether. So I'm going to show you guys the steps to do this. Most novice DIYers probably should be able to get this done, but if you follow the steps, in most cases you should be good. So let me just show you guys what we've got and let's get on with it. All right guys, so here we have the radiator. So you can see whoever did this work, they put some plasterboard either side. So I guess they cut the old wall out, but they didn't actually get behind the radiator. So if you look behind the radiator, you can see wallpaper. This is the council job. Unfortunately, sometimes you see some very bad work, but this is what they've done. Quick cheapy job. So they've just joined plasterboard up to here and they've not taken the wallpaper off behind here. So we want to get this wallpaper off, we want to skim this whole wall, and then we want to put the radiator, paint it obviously, and then put the radiator back. So I'm going to show you guys how to do it. So as I said, sometimes you can lift the radiator up without having to remove it. Usually if these pipes go down into a hollow floor, a timber floor, most times there's some sort of slack where the pipes can move up and down, which gives you enough lift to get the brackets off. So usually we'll just loosen this bolt on either side, be able to lift it up, tilt it down, and then we can get to the back, leave the radiator flat down, and we can work and then reverse and put it back up. In this case, because they're coming out of the wall here, I can't actually lift these radiators up, so I have to remove them. So the first step is going to be, the radiator is actually on at the moment. The heating system is quite hot. So first thing is, you don't want to be working with a hot radiator because you're going to be holding it, you're going to burn yourself. You want to turn the radiator off first. So in this case, we've got a thermostatic valve, which is set almost to max. What we want to do is we want to turn that to 0. And then we'll just probably leave that for about 10 minutes until the radiator cools down. So that's the first step. Now we need to close the valves on both sides. We need to close that valve, and we need to close this valve on that side. Most cases with a thermostatic valve, if it's working fine, you can just close the valve like that and it should be good to go. So as long as that valve is not faulty, you should be good. On this side, we need to close this valve here with a pliers or some grips or something like that. So we'll do that now. All right, so what you want to do is you want to close this by turning it clockwise until it stops. So you just want to use a grip, keep turning it. There we go. So that is locked now. So now that's locked, as I said, we're going to wait for this to cool down and then we'll proceed to take this radiator out. So the next thing you need to do is just check what your pressure on your boiler is. So on this boiler, actually checking it, it's actually too low. It's almost on the minimum, which is the red box at the bottom. You've got the red box on the top, which is too much. And you've got that sort of red outline box at the bottom, which means it's too low. So we're borderline of too low. Any further loss in pressure and it drops down, the boiler probably gonna stop working. And then the customer's probably end up calling out somebody because their heating stopped working. So always check things like this. Check your manual, it'll show you how to adjust the pressure. They're quite simple, just turning the lever or 1 or 2 levers and topping it up again. In this case, I know for this particular boiler, we need to be somewhere in the middle of the gray, somewhere in the middle of that gray. So we will need to raise this pressure. We won't do it now while we're doing this. But the good check is to check where your pressure is so that you understand where it should be. So when you finish, you can put it back to where it should be. In this case, it's totally in the wrong place. So we'll just disregard it. When we're finished, we refit the radiator we will pressurize it to where it needs to be. Now the next bit is something you're probably going to need someone else to help you, especially if you've got a large radiator. This radiator is not too big, so I can manage it on my own. It's probably about 1.5 meters wide, about 500 mil tall, so I know I can manage this one on my own. Bear in mind, this radiator is going to be filled with water, so you're going to be lifting a radiator full of water. So also make sure you've got something like a big bucket or some sort of bucket. Probably a normal size bucket would probably have been fine for this, but have a bucket nearby that you can dump the water into. Also, if you've got any paint trays, how helpful like this to help you catch some water as you're opening it. So what we're going to do first is we got to loosen this nut here completely. Here on one side, we're going to move quick. We're going to open this one out, and once we do that one, then we're going to quickly go and do the one on that side. Now, as long as you don't remove or open the bleed valve, the water will kind of stay in the radiator. It's due to negative pressure and all that sort of for the physicists in here. So that should give you enough time to work on this and basically get the water without doing too much mess. Right, so one side has been loosened. You notice some water came out, but it stopped. When it really starts moving is when we get some sort of back pressure, i.e. if we was to open the bleed valve, that would allow air in, which would push the water out. And maybe when I take off the other side. So when I take off the other side, I've got to move quick. So I'm going to start getting more water coming out of this side. So just get your bucket ready, because I'm going to need to dump it into there. So we've got the other side off, and as you can see, no water's really coming out of it, which is great. Or very little anyway. So this is where it's helpful to have two of you to do this, because it can be quite heavy, but thankfully as you empty it, it gets lighter. You can see you've got all the water out. Now what I do is I put the radiator upside down, like this. So any small leftover waters that's in there won't be able to come out and spill everywhere. Okay guys, so just a quick update. So we've managed to take off the wallpaper behind the radiator. Actually ended up plastering the wall as well and the ceiling. And what I've done is just fit the radiator back on, which is just a reversal. I just hooked it back on, tightened up the connections on either side, and now we're ready to fill the radiator up. So bearing in mind the pressure was quite low on the boiler earlier on, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to top that up to where it needs to be first, and then I'll show you how we fill this up. And it's going to be a matter of going back, topping it up, opening the valves, topping it up, opening the valves, letting the air out, and I'll show you guys how we do that. Alright guys, so now that I've repressurized the boiler, what we're going to do is we're going to open one valve, which is going to be this one. And you can already hear it filling up. This was opened all the way, so if you want to keep things balanced, try and remember how many turns. This one was out all the way out, so I'm just putting it back where it was. And I always crack it a little turn back. Right, so that's done now. So now we can check for any air inside the radiator. All right guys, so here is our radiator bleed valve, which usually looks like this. You've got a little hole here where the air will come out, this little hole. You can turn this in the direction you want, and you can hear I've just loosened it a bit. So what you normally use is a radiator key, which I haven't got on me, but you can often use a flat screwdriver as well. Just open it. So you want to let all the air out until water starts coming out. So it might start spitting, but you want to get a sort of constant supply of water. Now we might run out of pressure on the boiler before we get the water to fill up. If it stops, then we just got to go top up the boiler again and then come back and carry on. So our pressure is getting quite low, so I think I'm just going to go and top the boiler up again just so we get a stronger pressure, and then we'll come back. Okay guys, so I opened that valve after we got all the air out of the system, and this is nice and hot all the way around the radiator. I've checked everywhere. It's nice and hot. It only took about a minute to get nice and hot. So that's all working. We can leave this in here now to dry up. Now I'm going to take you back to the boiler and just show you what we do at the other end. So after it filled up, we can see our pressure is still at a decent place. So we're just going to leave it there, and that's basically job done. So guys, that is it, and that is your quick tutorial of how to remove and replace a radiator. So I hope you guys learned something and enjoyed this video. If you did, please give us a thumbs up, like, share, subscribe, and all that good stuff. And guys, we'll see you in the next video. Thanks for watching. Take care.